I can't stop yawning.
It's too bad.
I'm going to try to be more energized this week. Last week was just not my week. And then.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of notes this week.
I do. I
I don't feel like anything happened.
Till episode 10. Well, shall we begin? Welcome back to Cardboard Empire TV Edition, Secret Life Edition, Sister Edition, Freeform Edition, whatever you fancy. I was just waiting for you.
Just pulling up the shit.
I mean, at least we found out this week that Ben still sucks, so nothing new there. You got the yawns now too?
I always do.
So, do you want to start with episode 6?
She went that-a-way. Everyone is finding out about Adrian's decision, except Amy.
Cool.
It's like we're back to the one-sentence ones.
Thank God. Well, like you said, the scene started with Adrian's mom, Cindy, outside of the clinic, calling up Ruben, leaving him a voicemail saying, "Hey, dude, you should call your daughter and tell her it's going to be okay because I think she's freaking out. She's about to have an abortion." And then we see Adrian sitting inside the clinic, and who so happens to walk up to the front counter? Ricky's
Margaret?
I think so. Ricky's foster mom. And they both kind of notice each other, do that awkward, "Hey, I'm your son's ex-girlfriend, and I'm here." And then, I'm not going to say "and then," sorry. And next, Adrian lets Margaret know it's not Ricky's baby, but she is there to have an abortion. And Margaret really just listens to her, kind of the first person that actually has listened to her and let her talk this whole process and come to terms with what she's feeling.
Yeah. And then Betty wants to go golfing.
Well, and yeah, I'll say what she's feeling is that she doesn't want to have an abortion.
Yeah, that's what she lands on.
Yeah. But then we see George shaving his face inside of Ashley's bathroom. And I guess Ashley walks in and sees her dad using her razor and shaving cream because he likes it better. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I don't know why it was there. I think they were all just kind of showing the mornings. But yeah. But then, yeah, we see Leo putting some golf balls in his office, and he's saying that he's going to go golfing with Ruben because he needs a guy's day. And Betty's like, "Well, I want to go golfing too." She's going to go put on her skirt.
Yeah. She says they can be bad at it together.
Yeah, and it was just cute how she was like, "I'm going to put on my skirt. It's the perfect outfit." But Leo's like, "No, Betty, like, this is just for the dads. Like, Ruben's having a hard time." And Betty was like, "Well, no one's here for me. Like, Adrian has her mom, and Ben has Adrian, and you, and Ruben has you, but no one's there to talk with me, and I'm going through this too." Which was kind of sad.
I suppose.
But yeah, then we see Ben at the clinic, and as he's rushing into the clinic, he runs right past Adrian outside, but then turns around because he realizes.
Yeah. Then she tells him she's not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. And Ben says, "I'm here for you no matter what." And then we see Cindy's walking up to Ben and Adrian, and Ricky's mom is like, oh, thank God it wasn't Ricky's. Which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
But I guess Amy has been calling Ben because she's looking for him. She hasn't heard from him because he's been avoiding her since all of this has started. And then Adrian sends a text to Ashley, letting her know that she changed her mind. And then that leads Ashley talking to Ricky and telling Ricky that Adrian changed her mind.
Had my headphones on backwards. Was wondering why they felt funny.
And after Ashley tells Ricky, we see George talking to Anne because he's upset that he missed Amy's phone call. And then we see George making some sexist comments about Anne not cooking anymore. Apparently she hasn't been making some home-cooked meals lately.
I don't remember any of this.
Well, I got you. But there are some birds squawking in the background.
Yeah.
Okay. They're really loud. I just thought you should know.
I probably won't be able to hear them when I edit.
Okay. Then we see George making the sexist comments about Anne not cooking, and Anne's like, well, if you want to cook, you should go buy groceries and make dinner yourself. And then we see Ricky coming downstairs and lets his George and Anne know that he's going to take John to his parents' house for the night because he hasn't seen those grandparents in a while, and Ricky could use some time away from the Jergens after, all that shit last week. And so Ricky bounces, and Ashley tells her parents about Adrian's decision to keep the baby. And then she talks to Anne about it as well, and Anne's like, well, someone needs to tell Amy, and Ashley's like, no one needs to tell Amy. The only person that should tell Amy is Ben. And she's like, Mom, promise me you won't tell Amy. She's like, I don't know if I can. And then we see Adrian and Ben showing up at Grace's house because she needs to be the first person that knows that Adrian's not having an abortion, I guess.
Yeah.
And Tom overheard Ben and Adrian talking and goes in, and he's happy and goes into the guest house to tell Jack. And Jack's like, oh no, they are at the clinic today. You couldn't have heard them. And he's like, oh no, they're in the house. But then Jack has to deal with his own drama because Madison keeps freaking out about Jack.
She's a really bad girlfriend.
Yeah, she sure is. Jack's like, I guess Madison's still stalking him and is sitting at where his car is down the street. And Jack's like, well, just stay there. I'm going to come and talk to you about it all. And so he walks by the main house, and Ben sees Jack walking by. He's like, oh no, he's going to go tell Madison, so I'm going to follow him. And that's exactly what happens. So Jack gets to Madison. She's freaking out about the whole Grace situation. And all of a sudden Ben shows him, is like, you're going to tell her about Adrian. And he's like, what about Adrian? He's like, no, I didn't, but now you just did. And so now Madison knows about the baby, and she tells Ben he better tell Amy. Do you still not have notes? Is this still me?
No, I've had them.
You said you didn't.
Well, that part you were talking about, but then they picked up again at Ashley telling the mom about Adrian.
Oh, sorry. Well, now we're at Ricky.
And then it was Grace and Adrian talk, and then Jack and Madison talk, and then Ben and Jack and Madison talk, and now my next one is Ricky Mom and Ricky talk.
There you go.
All these episodes are is people just talking about Ben and Adrian.
But no one talking to Amy.
Yeah. Because she's off filming a movie or something.
Yeah. It wasn't The Spectacular Now, because that was on Showtime the other day, and that was filmed in 2013. So I don't know.
You just look at Shailene Woodley's.
Yeah, I guess. IMDb. Yeah, and I noticed that her hair was different. Was this 2012?
2010.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. The show is old.
Could have been the Descendants.
She was in the Descendants? Oh, could have been.
Yeah.
Maybe a Teen Vogue fashion shoot. I don't know. Maybe she's on the cover of Tiger Beat, J14.
That wouldn't have taken weeks and weeks and weeks.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, Ricky's talking to his parents, and all of a sudden, she was like, well, now that Adrian has Ben, maybe like you and Amy. And he's like, I'm not going to marry Amy.
Yeah.
Like, he flips his tit. George?
What?
I'm waiting for you to talk. I was going to give you some talking time.
Oh. Well, I think after Ricky and his mom, then George goes over to talk to Ruben, presumably about Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
And then Adrian and her mom come home. Or no, Adrian comes home because George and Cindy were having dinner together because Ruben was out golfing.
Well, so it was George wants to go talk to Ruben to keep them quiet. And then Ashley had said, oh, so all the dads are going to get together to fix things for the women folk like men do.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote, George sucks. And then, yeah, George gets there and it's Cindy there because Ruben's still out. She had been cooking dinner. And so George talks to her and hugs her. And that kind of fizzles away for a bit. And then we see Betty showing Leo and Ruben her golf skills in Leo's office. And she's about to hit them with golf balls. They're all nervous. And Leo's like, hey, Ruben, like, you need to go home. That's what's best. And Ruben doesn't want to go home. So Leo has a nice dad talk with him, and all of a sudden Ben and Adrian walk in. And they let the dads know that she changed her mind. And then Ben and Leo...
Ruben called her out for looking too happy.
Yes. She's like, I know it's a relief, but you don't need to be so happy about it. And then she's like, oh, I thought Mom talked to you. She's been trying to get a hold of you, so I thought you already knew. And so, yeah, so Adrian and Ruben leave, and then Ben and Leo have a talk, and Leo tells Ben he better tell Amy. And this is just the start of Leo being the man and finally realizing that his son is a shithead.
It's just the start of 5 episodes of like the same thing over and over again. Everybody telling Ben to tell Amy.
Yeah, and so, and then we see Jack and Tom talking, and then we see Mattis. Oh yeah, go on.
They're talking about how they need to come clean about their living arrangements.
Mm-hmm. And then I see Madison and Grace talking, and they're establishing some rules. And Madison's
they're so
an idiot.
annoying in these episodes. Both of them are idiots, and they're stupid and annoying. And I just hated every scene with them.
Right, and then that's when Ruben and Adrian come home, and they see George there, which Ruben isn't too happy about.
No, because he knows they had an affair once.
Mm-hmm. And then George leaves, Adrian goes to bed or whatever, and Ruben and Cindy are talking, and Ruben asks Cindy, like, what's wrong? And she doesn't seem too happy that Adrian changed her mind.
Yeah, because she knows her daughter had big life plans.
She wants to be a lawyer.
Yes, a family planning lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Or not planning, just a family, whatever.
And then we see George and Anne talking about Amy, and still like, we shouldn't tell Amy, blah, blah, blah. And then we see Ricky, and Ricky has another friend in bed because Ricky is
a blonde one this
spiraling
time.
Again. And while someone's in bed, Amy keeps calling him.
Yep.
And yeah. And then we see Henry and Allison.
Alice.
Yeah, sorry, Henry and Alice at Ben's house. And they're like, dude, you need to fucking tell Amy, you idiot.
Yep.
Ben's like, oh, not my precious Amy.
No, I gotta figure out how to do this so she still loves me.
Yeah.
So
And then the episode ends with Amy Skyping John and Ashley. And Ashley hanging up on Amy because no one will tell Amy anything that's going on. So Amy thinks that her phone isn't working and her computer's not working.
yeah,
It's just all
because
a
everybody
shit
just
show.
keeps hanging up on her.
Yeah. And that's how the episode ends.
All right, number 7. New York, New York.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta pull it up again. I accidentally closed the app.
I have to figure out where my notes end because, part of this episode, I started writing episode 8 notes at the bottom of this page. So then I had to, figure that out.
Mine ends with Ben gets to New York and he just kind of blurts out the news.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends.
Sneak peek spoiler alert 2 minutes in advance.
Ben goes to New York to visit Amy and finally tell her the news. So it's not really kind of spoiled it with this anyways.
And I only had half a page of notes for this episode, so that shows. So we see Ashley and Ricky having an awkward conversation. So I said Ash and Ricky awkward convo. Ricky lying ? So weird. OMG. Oh, so this is when Ricky and Ashley are yelling in the hallway.
Yeah, and the parents are eavesdropping, and they're kind of fighting about, do we have feelings for each other? No, that was just a dumb kiss. Ashley, this can't ever happen.
Why does Ashley, I like her, but why does she have to talk so dramatically? They try to make her seem more mature, so they give her, all of these, eloquent sentences and phrases that just aren't natural. And so,
this John Green movie?
Yeah, so, this whole time she's talking, she's like, you have feelings for me, you just don't know it yet, but if we gave ourselves a chance, we would be great. It's just... And Ricky's I don't like you, you're like a sister to me. It was a kiss.
I think he said sister-in-law. I think that's when he drops that bomb.
Yeah, and so, and Ricky tells Ashley that they should be ashamed of themselves, and Ashley's like, no, we have feelings, and Ricky's like, we should be quiet, your parents can hear us, and then Ricky hears George and Ann talking about Ashley and Ricky, and he kind of walks into the room and is like, yeah, John, I'm going to leave for a few days, so... He's going to take a few days off of the Jurgens, and they're going to take care of John for him because Ashley needs to chill.
Yeah. And then I think we go over to Grace, Ben, and Madison, and they've set up that empty chair scenario to help him practice breaking the news to Amy, but then they also pretend that his mom is in the chair so he can tell her the news.
Yeah, I wrote Ben telling his dead mom the news with Grace and Madison. And Madison knows it's weird, but Grace is all into this, hi, Mrs. Jurgens, it's so nice to meet you.
I think that therapy does help some people, but other people it is weird.
Yeah. I remember in one of my psych classes we had to do it.
Yeah. And then I think we see Ben's dad talking to him. I don't know if anything happens in between there.
I hope Ricky's birth mom shows up.
Oh, yeah.
So then we get to Ricky's house, and he's getting a knock at the door, and it's his birth mom. She's like, why are you here? They have a little... He's like, I don't have the money if you're wanting your money back.
Does that happen right then? Because doesn't Ben stop by and he meets her?
That's after.
Okay. So this must have just been a little scene.
Yeah, Ben meets her the next day.
Yeah.
So that's when she comes in. He's like, I don't have the money if you want it back. And she's like, no, this isn't what I want. And then she lets him know that she violated her parole and she's going to jail the next day. She brought a gun into one of her drug tests.
Oh, she forgot it was in her purse when she had a meeting with her parole officer.
Yeah, so she wasn't doing drugs or anything. She just forgot about the gun. And she wants Ricky's help to turn herself in.
Yeah.
But then we go back to the Boykovich's house after Ben's home from his meeting with his mom. And Leo's confronting Ben about not calling Amy. And he's like,
he says he wants to do it in person.
Yeah.
So then he's like, well, we'll get the jet and we'll fly out to New York and you can do it then. Yeah. And he's like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that either. And he's like, well, if you don't do it, then I'm just going to ship you off to a military school so you can learn how to become a man.
Yeah.
And then after that, he's complaining to Henry and Alice. And they're like, you're complaining about flying to New York on a private jet?
Right.
Okay. And then they also talk about how they'll bring her a pie because she loves
Pecan
pie.
pie.
Yeah. And they know a great restaurant that makes them.
And that's when he gets a phone call from Ricky, and Ricky's like, hey, I need a ride to school tomorrow, and we need to talk.
Yeah.
And then we see George talking to Amy on the phone, and George is like, lying to her, saying, oh, your phone's breaking up. Like, yeah, we'll get you a new phone soon. Bye.
Yeah.
And then Ashley walks in, and George tells Ashley that she can't date Ricky. And, like, just reminding her, like, that's wrong. That's your sister's baby's father. Like, it's like, it's not the
Think
age
about
thing.
it a little.
Yeah. And that's when we see the next morning Ben shows up at Ricky's house, and that's when Ben meets his mom.
Oh, yeah, and Ricky's all upset. He's like, I said I'd meet you downstairs or something.
Right.
It's like, but I needed to talk to you.
Yeah, and so she gives Ben some advice, and it was bad advice of, like, don't tell Amy or something.
No, she said he needs to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because otherwise she's going to find out about it from someone else. So
right. And then so they all walk downstairs, or they get ready to leave, and Bunny shows up early to work, and Ben's like, why are you here, Bunny? And Ricky's like, oh, you don't think I'd leave my mom here alone with the store?
Yeah.
And then we see Grace and Adrian, and Grace is doing that stupid doctor hand to shoulder thing to Adrian. And Adrian and Grace talk and kind of make up, and then Adrian yells all around the school that she's pregnant.
But before that, Madison and Lauren start fighting because Madison never told Lauren that Adrian was keeping it. She's like, are we even best friends anymore?
Right.
She's like, you've been too busy kissing Jack, and you know what? And then she calls over her boyfriend's name, who I can never remember, and then she's like, we're going to leave you alone. Whatever.
Yeah, Jesse's my best friend now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So annoying.
And then Adrian talks to Henry and Alice and is like, yep, I'm pregnant. And then she yells again that she's pregnant.
Yep.
And then we see Ricky back at the deli, and see that Bunny let Ricky's mom work at the deli, and she really likes his mom. And then Ricky's talking to Bunny like, oh, well, she's going to jail. She broke the law. She has to go to jail. And then I wrote, why does Ricky seem like he'd be a Republican?
I don't think it's that.
He was just like, very much like, she doesn't deserve a chance. She broke the law. Blah, blah.
I think it's probably because she's been in and out of jail his whole life that he's just like, whatever, you fucked up again. You're going back to jail again. Who cares? It's the same cycle. Yeah.
And then we see Jesse at Jack's new place. They're really awkward, kind of talking about sex and their girlfriends. It's weird. And Jack is like, or Jesse's like, we need to get them to be friends again. I can't stand Lauren calling me all the time. And Jack's like, oh, wait, though, like, if they're friends again, then they won't be spending as much time with us. And if, they spend time with us, we're going to have sex.
Yeah.
And then we see Tom comes home and he failed his drug test, and that's how Kathleen catches Jack.
Yep, their secret's out.
Yeah. And she's kind of like, well, you don't have any place to go,
so you can stay here.
Yeah. And then we see Ricky bringing his mom, Nora, that's her name, wrote that down, to jail. And it was really sad. At first, he was trying to play the tough guy, like, yeah, see you soon. And as soon as she walks out the door, he does like the blood curling cry of Mom!
But before she walks in, she gives him her necklace, and then she's like, I don't know, this time feels different because I'm
She's
not
gonna learn
doing it for myself.
Vietnamese.
Yep. She talks about how she's doing it for her son now, and it's
wants him to send pictures of John.
Yeah. So just giving off the impression that she's trying.
Right. And then we see Anne and Ashley talking about Ricky, and Ashley basically says he loves him, and Anne's like, well, feelings change, just think about it, sleep on it, Yeah,
and she also told him you can't always follow your heart. Sometimes you have to use your brain.
And then...
That's not the advice you told me last time, but last time was when she was in 3rd grade. And it's like, it's more complicated as you grow up.
And then Ricky comes to bring Ashley to school, and then he tells her about Nora. And then we see Ben and Leo in New York City, and they're practicing the talk that Ben's going to have with Amy. And then all of a sudden Amy shows up at the restaurant, and they kiss, and as they're kissing, he blurts it out that Adrian's pregnant.
Yeah. And she, of course, is angry and leaves.
And he's like, but pecan pie.
Yeah.
But she's like, bye, Ben Boykovich.
Yep. And then it ends with Amy going away in the taxi.
Yes. As fast as she came.
Yes.
Cool.
Episode 8, The Sounds of Silence. Amy reaches out to Adrian, and Ricky asks Ruben for help.
Yeah, so we see George, Anne, and Ashley talking about Amy. Don't really remember about what.
It's she's not answering anybody's calls. So everyone's just like, hey, have you been able to get in touch with her? Or how can we trick her into picking up the phone just so we know she's okay?
Yeah. And then we see Anne telling Ashley that she's liking George again. And Ashley gives Anne the same advice that she gave her about Ricky.
Yep.
And Anne's like, this isn't really the same situation as you wanting to date your sister's baby's father.
Yeah.
And then Ricky tells Ashley that Amy's the most important person to him next to John.
Yeah.
And that pisses Ashley off.
I know.
Which leads her to hate calling Amy and leaving a voicemail saying, I'm sorry, Amy, that I kissed Ricky. And he kissed me back.
Yep.
Bye. Have fun in New
Ashley
York.
mad face. Silly.
Then we see Anne and George planning on going on a date.
Yep. George gets to work planning a very elaborate dinner with Donovan. So
$1,000 reservation.
He has connections to some restaurant, and
that's a room.
They're gonna shut the place down and give them a private room, all for the low price of $1,000.
Right. And then we see Ashley and Adrian talking, and Adrian wants Ben to date Grace now.
Yeah.
Which is so
but
weird.
Ashley's not happy about that. So she basically yells at Adrian for trying to control Ben's life.
And then I have Madison and Lauren talking to Jack all about hanging out at the guest house so they can have an orgy. It's just weird. For some reason, they all want to have sex together.
Because they have bunk beds. But I think that comes up later.
Yeah, episode 10. And then we see Ben and Ricky talking about Amy. Ben wants Ricky to call Amy for him, and Ricky's like, no.
Yeah.
And then Leo comes in and talks to Ricky about Nora. Leo says that, hey, I got a team of lawyers. I think we could get Nora out of jail.
It's not a team of lawyers. It's
just a team.
It's just Ruben.
People.
It's because he says, well, because Ricky's like skeptical and he's like, well, who are you going to pay to get her out? And he's like, well, I'm not going to pay anyone, but we both have a friend at the defender's office. And
then saying that he'll help with promising her a job because Bunny really liked working with her. And at first, Ricky's kind of like, she did wrong. She should be in jail. I don't think this is a good idea. She's going to screw you over.
Yeah. And he has no confidence. She's just going to slip back into her own old ways. And he doesn't want Leo's business to get hurt by this unpredictable mother.
Yeah. And then we see Ben going to the doctor with Adrian. So they're on their way. Or Adrian tells Ben, like, hey, I have a doctor's appointment. I want you to come with. And he's like, cool. And then we see Anne talking to Ashley saying, hey, I have to go see Mimsy. She has the flu. And Ashley's like, well, what about her husband and stuff? And then we learn that Mimsy's husband at first, the younger guy, didn't know that she had Alzheimer's. So now we know that he wasn't using her.
Yeah. We also know that Mimsy doesn't have a lot of cash, so she can't really be used.
So Anne's going to go to see Mimsy. She couldn't get a hold of George, and that's because George is still setting up Anne's date, giving $1,000 in cash to this restaurant owner. And then we see Grace baking cookies for Benjamin, who's going to come on over.
The great product placement scene.
Yeah, I have that. So she's baking cookies for Ben, and Kathleen's like, why? And he's like, he's going to come over after Adrian's appointment. And Kathleen goes, well, to cheer you up, here's this cleaning clear morning burst thing. And I know I really wanted one after this episode back in the day. It's like this little ball thing that you put face wash into. I
remember. And it gives you a burst of energy in the morning.
Like, the face wash is inside this ball thing, right? And then it squirts on your face.
So dumb.
And yeah, I did get the Morning Burst face wash, but not that product.
Yeah, before you found out all those little plastic balls are real bad for the environment.
Yeah. I think it maybe was a massager too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great product placement. Yep. The All-American show that I watched this weekend, they all have Microsoft Surfaces. And I think that's a CW thing, is with Microsoft.
Yeah, I remember that in Vampire Diaries.
Instead of all these rich Beverly Hills kids having iPads, they all have Microsoft Surfaces. I'm like, that's not realistic, but okay. Yeah.
I like the Vampire Diaries, how they all have the Microsoft phones or whatever. And it's they would totally have iPhones.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's Kathleen's gift to Grace.
Yeah.
And then we see Ashley being mean to Ricky, because of him saying that he likes Amy more. And, Ricky's then asking Ashley to watch John for him. And Ashley's like, no. And Ricky's mad at Ashley for telling Amy about the kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And is like, you're going to watch John for me, and leaves.
Yeah.
Because he's got to go talk. No, this isn't it. Never mind. I don't know where he's going, but he's doing something.
Yeah.
And then we see George coming home to get Anne, but he didn't get Anne's messages. And he's really sad. He's really sad about that. Then we see Ben and Adrian at the doctor, and Ben is a fucking asshole and just creepy and basically sexist. Yes, very sexist.
And ageist.
Yep. Adrian said Ben isn't going into the appointment, but he does go in, and he's not in the
medical office, but the doctor's office
area.
Yeah.
And basically Ben doesn't like that her doctor's a male, and this doctor was recommended. Young and a male. And Adrian thinks he's cute. He was recommended by Margaret, so she knows he's good.
And the clinic is catered towards teen moms.
Yeah,
so they know all of
her. Adrian's basically flirting with the doctor, and the doctor shuts her down. Sure, he's used to it. But the whole time Ben's like, I don't like you as a doctor. You're not going to be our doctor. And Adrian's like, no, you are.
Yeah.
And then we see this creepy makeout party, dance party at Jack's house.
So cringy.
Like, what's with this dancing all the time?
I don't know.
It's like the middle of the day. There's music playing. Lauren and Jesse are making out, and then Jack and Madison are just dancing, and Grace walks in and is like, oh, I want to dance too. And Madison's like, oh my God, Grace.
I really enjoyed when Madison does some kind of hair flip while dancing. Yeah, Grace is like, oh, I love that move.
Yeah, cool. And then we see Ruben over at Ricky's apartment. They're going to talk about Nora and parole, etc.
That's where Ricky went.
Yes. To the house. And Ruben's like, I'll do this for you, but you need to go talk to Adrian and forgive her. She really needs your forgiveness right now.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Ruben
fine.
notices that Adrian doesn't really have any friends right now.
Mm-hmm. And then we see George taking Ashley to the fancy dinner.
And they talk about Ricky again.
Well, no. First they talk. Well, they do. First they talk about George had started an online environmental friendly store for Anne.
Well, it was Anne's idea. She made the whole business plan, but then it never
come to life. And that's was going to be his gift to her. Was that he wants to step down from managing the store because they've been doing really well with this online, and wants Anne to manage everything, and he's going to stay home with Robbie. And yeah. And then Ashley and George wants to be a stay-at-home dad, and Ashley's like, why did you want to do this? And basically he blames himself for what happened to Amy. That he wants to be more involved in Robbie's life, and staying home with, I guess, Ashley too, because he doesn't want anything else to happen. And then they talk about Ricky, and I don't remember really what about, besides just don't fucking date him.
Yeah, because I think Ashley says, are you afraid I'm going to end up the same?
Yeah.
And then that's why he doesn't want her spending time with Ricky. And he's like, well, partly, yeah.
And then we see Tom and Jack doing something. Tom
was asking how the party went, and Jack's like, oh, well, it ended about 15 minutes after your sister got here.
And then we see Ben at Grace's. Ben doesn't really want to talk to Grace at all. He's just enjoying eating cookies.
But he is complaining about the doctor. Yes.
And then he's like, I'm going to go. And she's like, you can take some cookies with you. And he takes like the whole thing. And he has like 3. And then they kiss.
Yeah, awkwardly.
Mm-hmm. And then we see Adrian and Ruben in her kitchen. And Ruben tells her about Ricky. Basically saying like he's going to come over and talk to you at some point. Blah, blah, blah. And then Adrian's going upstairs, whatever, and she gets a phone call from Amy, and Amy offers her an olive branch saying, hey, I know before you wanted to be my friend, does that offer still stand? Yeah. Like, I've been where you are. I know how important it is to have people. So they're friends now.
Yeah. Because she's like, I've been at this music camp for pregnant moms, and we've all been talking, and one of the biggest problems is everybody loses their friends, and we need friends at a time like this, especially ones who understand, and who knows, maybe our kids will grow up and play together.
Yeah. Cool.
Episode 9, Chicken Little.
I have, like, oddly a lot of notes for this.
I've got about the same as I do for the past 4 episodes. Ashley's torn between her feelings for Ricky and Grant. I don't think that's really what happened.
No, not at all. So we see Griffin and Ashley talking about Ricky. And Ashley's... Grant. Well, yeah, first she's like, I'm over Ricky. I need Grant to call me. I want to date Grant now. And he's like, no, I don't want you to use Grant. He needs a nice girl.
Yeah.
And
then
I'll
that's when Grace overhears, ooh, someone wants a nice girl?
I want to date someone. And so Griffin's like, yeah, I'll set you up with Grant if you set me up with someone. And Grace is like, I've got the guy for you.
Yeah. And they plan a double date.
Yes. And then I was like, does Grace actually know someone that's gay? And then we see Grant calling Ashley, apparently getting her permission about dating Grace. And because Griffin had called Grant and was like, hey, I found a girl for you. It's Grace. She's religious, blah, blah, blah. And Grant is like, well, Ashley got on the pill for me. And Griffin's like, no, she didn't. So when Grant is talking to Ashley, Grant asked her, did you get on the pill because you thought we were going to have sex or for someone else? And Ashley doesn't say anything, implying that she thought she was going to have sex with Ricky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next note is Ruben being a jerk to Adrian because she's wearing pajamas.
Kinda, but George comes in to tell Ashley first that him and Anne are going to dinner and that there is going to be a casserole in the stove for her and Ricky.
And a salad in the fridge.
Yes. So Ashley,
that was his contribution.
Yes. Ashley dressing ooh la la for Ricky, and it's creepy.
Yeah.
And then we see Ricky yelling. So Ricky and Ben are at work, and Ben is yelling at him because Ricky's wanting to go talk to Adrian, and Ben's like, you don't need to talk to Adrian. And then Leo comes in and yells at them. And basically Leo lets Ben know that he's getting sick of him.
Just now?
Yeah. And then we see Ricky talking to Leo. He's really Ricky's scared of Nora coming back and working there, and they kind of talk about that because Leo is the dad that Ricky never had.
Oh, is that when Leo calls Ricky son and Ben overhears?
I think so.
And is real stupid about it.
And then we see Ruben being a jerk to Adrian.
Because she's wearing pajamas in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. She's like, well, I had a snack, then took a nap, then had another snack, and when I'm done studying, I'm going to have dinner, and then I'm going to go to bed.
Mm-hmm. But Ruben tells Adrian that Ricky's coming over, so that gets Adrian to go put on real clothes, I guess. And then Ruben tells Adrian that she should marry Ben.
How about let's just take marriage off the table, you know? Right? They're like teenagers.
And then Leo tells Ben that Ruben wants Ben to marry Adrian, which makes Ben freak out. Because he only has eyes for Amy. My Amy.
She's going to forgive me.
Right. And then we see, I don't know any sense of time with this show anymore. Like, half the time it's the morning, but it's like nighttime for other characters, even though they're in the same town. But we see Jack meeting Tom at the courthouse, and Tom wasn't able to retake the drug test, but we see Tom's competition coming up to Tom being like, oh, I have the job now. Cool. And then
good for you, dude.
Yeah, and then Tom and Jack see another person, aka Tammy, who just got married. And that makes Tom real sad.
Then I think we go back over to the Jurgens. We see Ashley all dolled up for dinner, and Ricky comes and he's like, oh, you look nice. You going somewhere? And she's like, no. And he's like, hey, can you watch John for me? I have to go do something. I don't know if he says what.
Yeah. But also before that, Tom and Jack also see George and Anne rushing into the courthouse as well. And they were like, aren't those the Jurgens?
Yeah.
But yeah, Ricky Ashley's making it all awkward by lighting a fake candle on the table. And then we see Grace, Grant, Griffin, and Date.
Yes.
Apparently the guy that Grace picked is not gay. Allegedly. So
for the next 10 minutes.
Grant and Grace get introduced, and then Griffin's like, who did you bring for me? And she's like, oh, this is Peter. And Peter's like, aren't you missing someone else, like a girl for me? And it was awkward. But they're like, oh, well, we're going to eat pizza, though, so that's cool.
Yep.
And then we go to the guest house, and Tom is sad, so Jack makes him some soup. And while they're talking, Jack mentions that he's not over Grace.
Big shock.
No. And then we see upset Ashley because Ricky just told her that he's going to go talk to Adrian. And then we get to Adrian's house.
And they kiss.
Yes, but they don't have feelings for each other.
Nope, there's no chemistry, but Ashley still sees the kiss, and she's all sad face about it.
Right. So then we see Amy calling Ashley about kissing with Ricky. And during that phone call, Amy tells Ashley that she's giving up the French horn. She's like, I'm not really good at it.
Yeah. She's like, I'm good, but not good enough to make a career out of it.
And then we see Grace and Grant saying goodnight to each other, and Jack walks in. And that's cool. And then we go outside to Griffin and Peter standing by the car. And I guess Griffin and Peter know each other already. They must go to the same gay teen bar.
If those exist.
Like a 16 plus gay bar, I guess.
Yeah. Tuesday night is gay night.
I have no idea. It is California. They're a little more progressive. But I also feel like Brenda Hampton probably doesn't know much.
Who knows?
But Peter's closeted. He's afraid to tell his parents because they're really big in the church. And then Grant learns from Griffin who Jack is, that's the guy that Grace had sex with and her ex. And then we see Jack and Grace in the kitchen, and Jack wants Grace always.
Bleh.
But he loves Madison, but is in love with Grace. And then we see Peter coming home from the hangout, and his dad awkwardly coming in his room. Who's his dad? He looked super familiar.
I didn't notice.
But not, he looked like someone. I don't think he was someone. And then his dad is like, how was the guy that you were set up with? And Peter's like, oh, what? You know I'm gay? And he's like, yeah, your mom and I are always suspicious. We love you.
Yeah. In between all of that, though, is George and Anne's dinner.
Well, first he learns that his mom was the one that outed him to Grace and told Grace that she ever knows someone. Yeah. So, George and Anne are at dinner.
He spills the beans about how he took her plans and set up this online store, how it's doing really well, and she should take over the store and turn the whole thing into her dream. And he'll stay at home, and she's all happy. And
they come home, and they see the romantic dinner set up, and
they freak out a little bit
because they think that Ashley and Ricky are together. So they all each run to the bedrooms, and Ashley was in the nursery, and Ricky is still at Adrian's.
Yeah, they don't like that either, though.
But they're talking, and Ben calls Adrian.
He still loves Amy. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's where I stopped taking notes. I don't know if anything more happened.
I think it was just more on the phone call because my last note is Ben controlling AF.
Yeah, I think he was probably pissy still about Ricky being over there and saying, you can't talk to Ricky.
Oh, yeah. He's like, it's my baby, and you can't be with Ricky. Well, you're pregnant with my baby.
Yeah.
And Adrian's just like, I roll. We're not together. But then after the phone call, she hangs up and she like turns down to her stomach. She's like, I think I might still be in love with Ricky.
All right, episode 10.
My boyfriend's back.
And you're gonna be in trouble. Hey, nah. Okay, I'm sorry.
Ricky visits Amy in New York, and Ben goes with Adrian for a sonogram.
Gasp. So basically we see Ben fucking spiraling because Amy hasn't called him. And he's talking to Henry and Alice about it. And everyone's just getting real fed up with Ben this episode. And talking about Amy. So Ben is talking to Adrian about Amy.
It's also the last day of school.
Yes, and Ben is mad at Amy, or is mad Amy is friends with everyone but him. And then Ben says that he's pregnant. And Adrian's like, no, you're not. He's like, well, we're pregnant. She's like, no, I'm pregnant.
He's also taking down his weird Amy shrine in his locker while they're talking about all of this, and I thought that was creepy. It's like,
and
why
then
do you have so many photos?
Ricky walks by, and Adrian's like, hey, can I talk to you? And he's like, not if Ben's around, because I don't want to talk about Ben and Amy. And basically, Ricky also says he's not talking to Ben because of that. And Adrian tells Ben that everyone is annoyed with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Ricky and Amy talking on the phone. They're talking about New York. And Amy lets him know that like she's thinking about staying an extra day or two. Because they said that the apartments will be available, and Ricky's like, don't take advantage of the situation like that. You've been gone for 4 weeks. Come on back. And she's like, well, I didn't want to tell you this, but those 2 days are really when the dads come up to see the moms to have some alone time together. But I didn't know if I should tell you.
Bring the kids too, though. Yeah, and that was one of the excuses she used for wanting to stay. She's like, I can babysit them and meet their friends.
And she's like, I didn't want to tell you because I know we're not together. And then we see Ricky freaking out about Ben to Amy, like, you just need to call him and end it. Like, figure out what you want with Ben. Annoying. Yeah, and then Ricky said maybe things would have been different between us if you weren't dating Ben when you were pregnant.
Yeah, and that's when he's like, I've got this weekend off, so why don't I fly out and we'll discuss everything.
Yeah, and he's like, I can bring John with, and she's like, no, I don't want John flying for 2 days straight, basically. But yeah, so he wants to fly out to see Amy, and because they need to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ricky talks to Amy's parents about watching John while he's in New York, and they say that's fine, but no sex.
Yes.
No sex.
It's like, we're not going to do that. We just want to talk and figure out what we are.
And that I'll get a hotel room.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, fine, you go. And then Amy calls Ben after she talks to Rick, and she's like, hey, you need to stop calling me every 15 minutes.
Right.
I'll talk to you face to face when I get back.
Exactly. And he's like, you want to see me?
Yeah.
That means you want to see me?
Yeah, so now he's got like a new pep in his step because like, we're going to talk face to face.
Yes, but before that, Ashley kind of tries to sabotage this trip to George, saying like, oh, you really think they're not going to have sex? And so that kind of gets George a little thinking.
Yeah.
And then Leo talks to Ben after the phone call, and Leo is a realist and is like, I don't think that means that she wants to see you. I think she just planned on seeing you. Did she say she wants to see you?
Yeah.
No, she wants to talk face to face. And Ben is like, well, just let you, like, I talked to Amy and I'm not marrying Adrian, so you can like just stop talking, Dad. And he's like, well, I wasn't even coming in to talk about either things. I was just wondering, like, why haven't you had friends around? Where's Henry and Alice? Usually we have a party on the last day of school.
Yeah.
Let's have a barbecue, invite everyone over, and is like, well, I already invited everyone over.
Well, it was Henry and Alice that invited everyone. And they're all downstairs waiting for Ben.
Right. And so we see Ben's barbecue now, and all the couples are kind of talking about what they're going to do for the summer. I guess Jack is going to Phoenix to visit his parents, and then has football camp right after, which has Madison freaking out. And then that also has Madison and Grace fighting, because Grace is like, don't you just love Jack's mom? Like, I love Jack's mom and his dad. And Madison's like, I've only met them once.
Yeah. Well, they're back to their petty fighting.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah.
And then we see Lauren and Jesse talking about the summer, I guess. Jesse's going to a cabin before football camp, so that's Lauren's
what his family does every year.
And they start making out. And then we see...
And she took off my pants.
What?
You know that song? We start making out. And she takes off her pants, and then I turn on the TV. Yeah.
That's the time she... And then we see Grant and Griffin walking into Ben's. Griffin says Peter is coming, but he's not out yet. And then we see Grant and Grace reuniting. I guess Grant is being his normal psycho self and is jealous of Jack and Grace. And then we learned that Grant actually went to med camp.
Yeah.
And going again, so they're the one couple that are actually going to be together this summer. Thank God.
Yeah, they're actually happy.
Yes. Then we see Jack asking, so in between all of Madison, Lauren, blah, 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 talking, Madison said that she wants to do something with Jack that Grace never did, which I guess is like actually sleeping together, like not sex, but just sleeping. And so Jack comes up to Grace and is like, hey, do you think I could have a sleepover? Like, we have bunk beds.
Yeah.
And like whatever. And then we see Adrian and Ashley showing up to the barbecue, and Grant comes over to talk to them, and Adrian and Grant meet for the first time, and then Adrian leaves so Ashley and Grant can talk. And I don't
remember what happened with that. I don't have notes on it.
Apparently Ashley's bad at parties, though. Just remember that, I guess. And then we see Henry and Alice at the party. They're weirdly dancing and talking about Ben.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and then Peter shows up with a girl named Haley, who is his beard. And
she wants to meet the Boykovich heir.
Yes. I think she wants to have a little heir of herself.
Yeah. And that's when Ashley comes in and takes Haley, and she's like, yeah, I'll go introduce you to Ben. And
he's having a baby.
Yeah, and the woman he's having a baby with. And she's like, oh, why are all the good men like having babies or something like that? And Ashley eye rolls.
Right. And then Peter and Griffin talk, and Peter lets Griffin know that he's only gay when he wants to be gay.
Yeah.
And Griffin's like, that's not how it works, buddy. And then we see Ben and Tom talking about girl problems, and Tom said that maybe
anyone who will listen.
Yes, and then Tom says maybe Amy has bad news. That's why she doesn't want to talk to you.
Because that's why Tammy wanted to talk to him.
Yes, and that's when we learn from Ashley that Ricky is going to New York to see Amy. And Adrian and Ben both hear that.
And freak out.
And then we see Ricky at Amy's in New York.
And it's all nice. They're planning
so cute
breakfast.
And awkward, and Ricky is there to see Amy and not New York City. Wink, wink, and they hug.
Yep.
And then we see everyone having a sleepover at Jack's house. Jack and Madison, and Lauren and Jesse are all sleeping over. And then we see Peter and Griffin and Haley having a sleepover at Peter's.
The Jack sleepover was funny, though, because Tom is chaperoning it. So Jack is trying to sleep in a lazy boy chair. Well, Madison and Lauren share the bottom bunk, and Jesse is alone on the top bunk. And Jesse's like, this is so dumb.
And Madison's like, it's going home now. It's 4 hours. It's 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And then we see Ben with having a sleepover with Henry and Alice in a room of the house I've never seen before. A giant leather couch. Ben
doesn't the movie theater room.
Yes. Ben says that he doesn't want to be a dad.
Yep.
And he is spiraling. And then we see Adrian asleep in Ben's room, and Leo talking to Ruben, confirming that she's there.
Yep.
And then
Grace and Grant We're making out all night?
Yes. And then Ricky and Amy kiss. And then we see Adrian coming back from a doctor's appointment the next day. See, this is where I don't know what time it is because Amy and Ricky are having breakfast, but everyone's sleeping. And now Adrian's...
there's a 6-hour time difference.
Oh, yeah.
So if it's 4 a.m. in California,
actually.
Then it's 10 a.m. in New York.
Never mind. And then we see Adrian coming home from the doctor's appointment. She got a sonogram and showed Ruben. I guess Ben is showing Leo his sonogram and Henry and Alice, and he's excited now that he's actually seen his baby and wants to marry Adrian. And Henry's
sees right through that.
Yeah. And she's like, "Are you sure you actually want to marry Adrian, or do you want to say you're marrying Adrian to make Amy mad?" So she says she wants you.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Maybe." And then we see the end of this episode is Amy and Ricky all just talking about life and their interests. They're talking about music. They both like Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Ricky likes Jerry Lewis and Amy doesn't. And then at the end, they kind of talk about themselves and sex. And Amy said that if they slept together, Ricky would need to stop sleeping around and get tested.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where it ends.
Yep.
Yeah, they need a commitment. And they're ending up talking about like, well, John is 1 now. Like, he's walking, and they're like, he runs funny.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with those two.
I'm sure everything is going to go over splendidly.
No,
no bumps in the road for their relationship.
And will not interfere at all.
No.
And yeah. So, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So cool.
What'd you do this past week?
Oh, not much. Just been watching a lot of True Blood and Weeds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I watched all of All American. It's 2 seasons, 45 minutes long, 16 episodes a season. So 32 episodes in this whole weekend. It's so good. Like, it's really good.
Yeah.
Highly suggest it.
Just suggest, not recommend.
I said highly suggest. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. They really talk about current issues. I would say it's very well done for a CW show. They, like, not cheesy acting. They handle real topics really well because most of it takes place in Crenshaw in California, and they really involve all of the gang violence that occurs there. And also in the wake of like Black Lives Matter and just like racial profiling in general. And they handle it really well. They must have had, like, the cast is 90% Black, so I'm assuming, and hopefully they had a lot of people of color and stuff writing and directing, so they're able to actually handle these topics well, unlike a lot of other shows. That was my serious commentary for the day. It was just good to see in these times.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, it's definitely a take on Friday Night Lights / 90210. Your birds are crazy. Are you okay?
There aren't any birds going right now.
Well, there's something squeaking. It's birds chirping. Maybe you have a bird in your house. I don't know.
That'd be pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else going on in your life? We are drinking tonight.
What?
Is this our first soberish podcast? Because I have a drink.
No, I usually do these ones without a drink.
Oh. Usually you have Taylor delivering you a drink.
Sometimes.
Where's Taylor?
I don't know, in his room?
Does he have a plan for school yet?
Not really.
They haven't announced
every
anything?
other week. Well, right now the plan is, a hybrid mixture.
They announced today that Minneapolis is doing distance learning.
Yeah,
I
Denver
saw
is.
our hometown is going back to school and requiring masks.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of rural communities are doing.
Yeah. Fun. I'm running out of things to watch.
Well, there's always True Blood.
I haven't. I tried to start rewatching that like 2 years ago and I didn't get far. I should try that again. I do still need to watch The Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, it comes out on Friday.
I still need to watch season 6 of Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I want to watch that new Catherine Langford show. Is it Cursed or something?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I have no interest in that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, what are your plans for the week? Walking dogs?
There are any dogs that need walking. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
Exciting.
One day just bleeds into another. It's all the same.
True. All right. Now I'm going to go make my tacos. Okay, bye.
Okay.